Welcome to Fusion Fiction. Join us as we explore the limitless boundaries of imagination, bringing you captivating stories that unfold with every episode. Let your ears be the canvas where characters come to life, plots twist and turn, and emotions resonate long after the final word. Immerse yourself in the magic of storytelling with Fusion Fiction on Spotify with your host Madhulika Rajrohan, where genres blend seamlessly and every episode promises a new discovery. A warm hello to all of you who have tuned in to this episode of Fusion Fiction with your host Madhulika Rajrohan. Thank you so much for the overwhelming response to my last story, The One Night Affair. I guess it did tickle a lot of people, didn't it? Let me tell you the story behind the story. It was not all that exciting. I had been toiling hard on another story called Salam, and it had some 11 to 12 versions, even more if I'm remembering it correctly. I was extremely tired of edits and re-edits and just sat down to have some fun. And that's how The One Night Affair was born, out of sheer druggery. So without further ado, let's talk about our next episode of Fusion Fiction, the seventh in the series, The Wall of Clocks. What does each tick of a clock marks in a life? And what if the hands of the clock point to someone closer than one can ever imagine? In the quiet corners of a forgotten mansion, time hangs heavy on the walls. Each clock, a relic of the past, holds a secret, a whisper of moments lost. But when Devlina returns to Malumi's huge mansion, she finds more than just memories ticking away. Will she be able to uncover the legacy hidden in the shadows of every chime? To find out the secret behind the wall of clocks, tune into Spotify and YouTube on the 19th of September. Have you found something mysterious, say a piece of furniture or an artifact, when you have visited someone's home or a place? Something that has intrigued you? Do write to me about it. Wall of Clocks. Malumi Bose, with a big kumkum bindi and a coal-laden eyes, liquid, mesmerizing, yet distant, was hard to miss. She could be inviting and coy in a moment, and distant and closed in the other, like a Venus flytrap. Her vibrant tone and welcoming smile could never be missed. Devlina was charmed, rather ecstatic, when she first met Malumi in a town which was hardly a home for her. "You must come home." Malumi had been persistent. Devlina had nodded eagerly, like a child promised a ticket to the fairyland in town. New to town and heavy-hearted from moving away after marriage, Devlina had agreed to the invitation. A modern-day gypsy moving out in search of the dreamy greener pasture, she looked forward to the anchor which could hold her still in the quicksand. A hook, perhaps, to amuse herself with her cultural fervor. The talks of Ilish, Pujo, and Jalmuri, which held no meaning to a local, gained an almost reverential tone usually reserved for the gods in the Bose house. Back at home, Devlina felt more like a caged spectator than the elite doer. A visit to Malumi's house is all she needed to cheer her up, like the much-needed drop of honey in a bitter-tasting pill. You'll get used to it slowly. Then the difference wouldn't matter and bother you much. It will creep under your skin in the shape of trinkets and antiques, and slowly will be a part of your home before you know it. You will blend in, don't worry. Malumi had judicially suggested when Devlina nostalgically spoke about missing Rabindra Sangeet. "The language has no sweetness, it is so crude," Devlina complained. "They put Ray at the end of every sentence. Sounds so uncouth," Devlina remarked. She took her language rather seriously and guarded it with all ferocity she could. You have me and Oro to speak to, don't you? Malumi smiled, trying to cheer her up. Malumi's mansion stood in the middle of the old city, a calm sanctuary in the walled, bustling city stretching its arms lazily, while Devlina lived in Sikandrabad, outside the walled city, the new dwelling roaring with confidence towards urbanization, making its mark as an IT hub. Modern day slavery boosting the beleaguered middle class. Devlina would drape a crisply starched cotton sari and her favorite gold bangles, usually reserved for a family wedding, each time she visited Malumi's house. She made every effort to blend in with her host's ornate home, wanting to be a part of the setting somehow. Malumi's home, a mansion, essentially was an old colonial bungalow reserved for the high ranking government officials, with a sprawling garden kept prim by the gardener, was an unrivaled sight. An ingenious mix of modern and aesthetic fascinated the visitors. The West antiques blended perfectly, creating an inimitable sight. But what intrigued everyone was the wall of clocks. 16 grand wooden grandfather clocks hung on one wall, adding to the grandeur of the house. Devlina raved about Malumi's house to Aurobindo after her first visit to the new hostess's house. Her voice rather eager and excited, a mix of joy, exuberance, and reverence, sprinkled sparsely with a little bit of envy. Tea, she had urged Aurobindo as he returned from office. Like a child mesmerized by her first visit to a fantasy land, so was Devlina. She has this huge wall, she calls it the wall of clocks, she described animatedly. There are huge grandfather clocks all hung together. It's beautiful, Oro, so splendid. They have been to so many countries, one from each country, a souvenir of their stay, and she has dated them. How unique, don't you think? Devlina rattled on, her voice squeaky with delight and her face distant and radiant, like she was traveling the world as she spoke. It looks so grand. So, your Malumi Di lives in a clock tower, Aurobindo teased, mouthing a sondesh Devlina had painstakingly made for him. Oro, you can never be serious. Shotti, it's so. I get it. Splendid. I know you just told me, completed Aurobindo mockingly. Now you would also like to have a wall of clocks? Aurobindo suggested jestingly. No, of course not. That's Malumidi's signature style, not mine, Devlina defended forcefully. She got up, mulling over what her signature style would be. She was still young and perhaps still discovering, rather unaware of what her style was. Murals or maybe classy tribal artwork she had seen and wanted to make? What's Hyderabad's speciality, Di? Devlina asked Malumi over one of her green tea sessions. Sieving the boiled contents out of the cup, she put the pot aside. Malumi took a deep sip and, over closed eyes, murmured, excellent. It's biryani, pearls, filigree, and nautch girls, she enumerated with a smile and a wicked twinkle in her eye. How do you know about nautch girls, Dee? Oh, I know a thing or two about men. Devlina moved around, studying her reflection in the mirror. You need to bind men, Devlina, Malumi said, wrapping the end of her sari around her delicate fingers. All men are not alike, Dee. My Oro is different, Malumi answered, her mind drifting to the night before when they made love, consuming each other completely. You are very naive and young, Malumi smiled, patting Devlina's cheek. They moved to the kitchen where Malumi was making mutton chop for the evening. She picked up a rather sharp butcher's knife from the knife holder where an assortment of knives hung importantly, sharpened to perfection. I don't like the irregular chops the servants make, she smiled as she held the knife and sliced the meat with practiced deftness. Has Bosta also? Ventured Devlina, still stuck on the last thread of the conversation. Oh, no, Malumi protested laughingly. He wouldn't dare with me in tow. She gave a full-throated laugh. He really wouldn't dare, Malumi reiterated, her voice rather distant. And he wouldn't want to. After all, he has such a gorgeous beauty all to himself, Devlina added, admiring Malumi's beautiful face, reminiscing a goddess while she chopped with elan, her slender wrist working at a dexterous, learned pace. You flatten me, darling, but my knees crackle and my underwires can barely hold my sagging body together. Malumi chuckled. You chop like a pro, Dee. I can't get one cut right, and I'm so afraid of holding that knife. Malumi smiled, gazing at her knives reverentially, an artist watching her muse. Would you like to visit a Notch girl? Devlina asked Aurobindo, stroking his hair with her slender fingers that night as they lay in bed. What's got into you? He looked back, smiling, keeping his laptop aside. Malumi Dee said, man, not be left loose lest they should wander in darker streets. So this is what you and Malumi Dee talk all day when your husband is busy working? Aurobindo smirked. Not all the time, but this just crept up, that's all. Devlina got up from the bed, the lines on her forehead deepening a little. Aurobindo held Devlina's hand and pulled her close, their faces close to each other's. He held her face and kissed it, lightly at first and then passionately. Their eyes closed as their bodies moved, their breath unsteady. Aurobindo broke the kiss suddenly and holding Devlina asked, Tell me, if I ever wander in darker streets and you find me with another woman, what will you do? I'll kill her. Devlina raged, trying to get away from his hold. And leave me? Aurobindo teased, holding her back and stroking her shining black tresses. This is fine then. If I have to carry out a revenge on someone, I'll tell you I'm going around with her. Oro sniggered, looking teasingly into Devlina's eyes. Oof, Oro, you can never get serious. He smiled, gazing into Devlina's dark, doe-like eyes, and regaled amusingly. I cannot tell you how content I feel knowing you can even kill for me. Devlina dug herself into Aurobindo's hairy chest. Lovemaking was new that night, like they held someone new in their arms, discovering the contours they never knew existed. It had been 3 months since they had shifted to Hyderabad, and Durga Puja was nearing. Devlina had planned to go back to Calcutta for Pujo. You will not go, Dee? She was surprised when Malumi had shown her reluctance for travelling back to Calcutta. You get me some sindoor from the Khela this time. I will go next year when your Bosta will not be that busy. Why don't you get rid of these wretched clocks? Bose stated as he watched Malumi painstakingly remove the layer of greasy dust which sat stubbornly upon the clocks. I don't want to get rid of them. They remind me of the time I have been through. Malumi retorted, rather placidly, her hands moving dexterously along the edges of the wooden frame. Why can't you let it be? Let bygones be bygones. Why do you always have to keep a seething reminder on your chest? Maybe I don't want to heal. Maybe I like the seething pain. Have you ever thought about that? Malumi looked up at Chittaranjan, her eyes filled with silent accusation. You have always been selfish, Chittaranjan, always doing what you wanted to do and never thinking how it would affect me, she continued, her voice mellow and soft like always, not a chord out of sync. Chittaranjan was in his late 40s now, a dimming reminiscence of his former glory, his thinning hair, receding hairline, and deepened line across his forehead, a telltale sign that age had started to show rather unabashedly now. But his eyes were still filled with the same boyish and charming, and despite the deepening hollow of darkness around them, they never failed to appeal. I know I'm sorry, but is it too late to make amends? When I try to make things right, you push me away, Chittaranjan retorted, his voice pained, fastened with regret. Why can't we begin afresh? Why can't you get rid of these wretched clocks? Please consider it for my sake. Placing his hand on Malumi's shoulder as she scrubbed the clocks. Malumi sat there, scrubbing the filigreed brass hands of the clock with a metal cleaner brasso. Her collection had earned her the epithet, Lady with a Wall of Clocks, a title she secretly revelled in, removing the debris on the small metal plates stuck on the sides of the wooden wall of the clock, where the embossed dates were hammered importantly. Her brows furrowed, knitting her forehead as she tried hard to remember the details of what had happened that day. 26 September 1994, Belarus. The italicized numbers played havoc on her memory. Malumi remembered the panic, the rage, the anger, and then the peace that followed. The memory brought her back to the lane she had never forgotten. She heaved a heavy sigh. She tucked the glass case of the clock, carefully placing it back on the wall. Each clock told a story, not just of the places they had visited, but of the lives she had touched. The ticking wasn't just the time passing. It was a metronome of her actions, a heartbeat of her memories. The TV blared as the news anchor read the breaking news of the day. There had been a murder in the red light district of the old city of Hyderabad. The body of the victim has been taken for post-mortem. Others were not new to the area, but this one has drawn an intrigue. The murder seemed planned, as there were no signs of forced entry or fingerprints. There was a single slit across the victim's throat. The police were on a lookout, but as there are no clear leads, the case has become more contentious as the victim is claimed to be visited by men in the political circle and high-ranking officials. There you go again. Why don't news channels become detectives too? They know everything, even before the team of detectives get in. Ridiculous, commented Chittaranjan agitatingly as he moved about. Malumi drifted through the clocks as a panel of experts gave their comments on the case. Always around Pujo, right, Malumi? Chittaranjan queried, still listening intently to the news. Haven't you noticed we've always heard some or the other murder around this time? He asked rather quizzically. True, Malumi replied, sounding distant, her mind dwelling on the beauty of the clocks, the assuring symmetry and knowledge of precision. Always around Pujo, the goddess strikes, she completed, placing yet another clean clock upon the wall. You mean there can be a woman behind this all? Who knows, if women can be escorts, they can be murderers too, she stated, looking inquisitively at Chittaranjan as he came over to stand near Malumi's, passing the grand lobby. Well, yes, they can be, technically, he nodded, visibly upset about the news of the murder. Food? Malumi asked as she set the clocks back on the wall chronologically. The news of a murder had brought back banter in the Bose house again. The couple talked again, resting their regrets and resentments as Malumi prepared the meal with great care and love. The news of doom had brought life to the house. Her inability to bear kids with an undying guilt and suspicion. Intimacy, which had been rather flourishing in the first few years of marriage, ebbed away like a dying river, exposing the carcass of their dead marriage. After a few desperate attempts, Chittaranjan too stopped trying. Malumi, over the years, always assumed her husband of having an affair and cheating on her. Her feeling was not always unfounded. Mr. Bose hadn't always been honest in the relationship. He had his reasons, his temptations, which he could not resist, and he tried to make up for them in more than one way. Some like sweets, some like women. What's the difference? Temptation is still temptation. Hard to resist. He would chuckle amongst his friends. Malumi never confronted him on his involvements, which made him rather reckless and regular in what had been clandestine. The news on the TV had made him particularly upset, but he tried not to show it. He hid it by talking to Malumi, like by talking to his wife, would stop reminding him of the victim who had been murdered. Her skin, smooth, flawless, and radiant. Her smell, fresh, jasmine. How he would give anything to be with her one last time. The rhythm of his passion had been unmistakably for her. She reminded him of Malumi when they had been newly married. holding each other's bodies, molding each other like clay. What was the murderer thinking, he thought? What did he gain by killing her? How could he slit that beautiful throat so ruthlessly? Why don't we go to Calcutta for Pujo next year? It has been 16 years since we've been there during this season. Chitranjan suggested, trying to make his mind off from the news. We can plan if things go well, Malumi agreed, stacking the clocks in order. I've made Ilish today, your favorite. She tried to divert his attention. Bhalo, he replied, despite being lost in thought. What if the police finds out that I visit the girl? They will come running here, but she would have had so many. I must not have been the only one. Also, I had not seen her for 2 weeks. She must have had some other clients too. I was surely not the only one, and I did not do anything, so I just should keep calm. Are you okay? You look worried, Malumi probed, as she served him Ilish. I'm fine. Let's have food. Ilish smells excellent. You are an excellent cook, Malumi. They smiled and ate. No one found anything amiss. They were happy to be talking again, breaking the heavy silence which hung quietly like a cobweb in the damp corner. Malumi Di? Malumi Di, I really missed the span of 15 rather momentous days. I missed you too. Tell me everything, all the details. Malumi said, welcoming Devleena in her house. Devleena closed her flowery sun umbrella as she entered the foyer, dusting her slippers on the doormat. It feels so welcoming to enter your house, Dee, like I never should miss home. Tea? Sure, Dee, replied Devleena. I love your tea. Oro told me there had been a murder in the town on Pujo. All murders are grotesque, aren't they? I guess so, responded Devleena ponderously. You got a new clock, Dee? Devleena marveled at the 17th clock hung on the wall, the shining mahogany frame announcing its ceremonious arrival. The brass pendulum moved in perfect harmony with time. Yes, it's new, Malumi responded from the kitchen. Devleena ran her fingers across the embossed brass plate on the side, marking its date, 15th October 2015, Hyderabad. The Y in the Hyderabad curled baroquely. Devleena traced the date on the new clock. This one feels different, Dee. Malumi's smile was enigmatic. Every clock has its own story, Devleena. Some are just more meaningful than others. It's beautiful, isn't it? Malumi said, her voice barely a whisper. A reminder of how fleeting life can be and how sometimes it must be taken into our own hands to shape it. Wasn't Pujo on 15th October Day? Perhaps, if you say so. I don't remember the day, Malumi answered passively. Also, that murder took place on the same day, she continued discerningly. Maybe. A lot can happen in a day, isn't it, Dee? Shorty. That's true, concurred Malumi as she carried the tea back in the room where Devleena stood. We will be moving out soon. Your bow star has been transferred. Devleena stood transfixed, looking at the clock, moving her fingers along the frame. So soon? She said at last. Devleena suddenly felt drained, as if the news had taken away all the happiness in one stroke. I know, but it's always like this, so sudden. Malumi patted her hand warmly. Don't worry, we can talk over the phone. Come, let's have tea. I'm making jhalmuri. Malumi moved in the kitchen and smiled. She unpacked the new knife set from the box and started to chop the onions. She had not been perturbed by the news of transfer. It was routine to her by now. She knew the monotonous drill rather well by now. Moving to a new city, Bose finding a new muse, her missing Pujo, the messy killing, a new grandfather clock, and perhaps a new set of knives.